So it has now been about 2 months since the M2 Pro and the M2 Max chips have come out in the refreshed MacBook Pros, and a really interesting thing has occurred. Obviously now we've seen the benchmarks, we know how they perform, we know about the battery life and the cooling and all of those things. But because these new machines came out, I therefore went to sell my previous ones. Now, the previous MacBook Pros that I had were the exact same price. So this is the M2 Pro MacBook Pro 14. It costs $24.99. It has the 19-core GPU. It has 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. This is the M2 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro. So it's got the 38-core, 64 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte, and it costs $38.99. So those are the same configuration tiers and the same pricing as my previous machines. So how much was I able to get for them? Well, the 14-inch I sold for $1,600. The 16-inch I sold for $2,600. And I sold those via Twitter DMs, not eBay. eBay probably would have gotten a little bit more, but you're gonna lose 10 or 12% to fees. So it worked out being about the same. Side note, if you are looking for deals, do consider following me on Twitter, because every once in a while, that's where I will go to sell stuff. So this is an interesting discussion though, because obviously we discussed how the new machines are, I would argue, surprisingly improved over the previous ones. The performance in these things are really solid. However, when you reframe this and you look at the full-fat M1 Pro for nearly $1,000 off from what this costs, and you look at the M2 Max, also $1,300 discounted. That kind of changes things, doesn't it? Now, keep in mind that you're not necessarily going to find the same prices or the same conditions. Both of my machines had no Apple Care, so the warranty is expired, and these things still have, I guess, 10 months of warranty left, and you can add Apple Care. Then there's the matter of condition. You might not get as lucky as the two viewers who bought my MacBooks, because I keep my stuff in pristine condition. I'm definitely a little bit overly cautious, shall we say, but I was selling these two pristine condition, 65 cycles on the battery, absolutely wonderful machines. And it makes you wonder if you can find something like that, whether it's Apple refurbished, Amazon renewed, or a really nice used machine, is it worth saving $1,000 or more than $1,000 to get the previous generation? I would argue that you should first check out today's video sponsor, CaseCoo. The new Magic Stand case is a really innovative take on MagSafe. Oftentimes, MagSafe cases are meant to add accessories. This one has a kickstand built right into it. The MagSafe ring flips out and you can prop your phone up vertical or in landscape orientation. There's a bunch of different colors for these cases that match the finish of the new iPhone series, so definitely check them out with the link in the description below and you can save 10% off your order. But you can also save much more than 10% if you buy a used MacBook, and there's a lot of reasons why you would want to do that. I've said for a very long time, I guess since November of 2021 when this new generation came out, that it doesn't matter what spec you get. You are always going to get the fantastic ports, the fantastic display, the thermal design, Apple Silicon, the great battery life. There's just so much to love about this new generation of MacBook Pro. And as time goes on and these things are depreciating, the deals are getting crazier and crazier and crazier. To show you what I mean, let me pull up some eBay listings. Take a look at the very first result for the search term MacBook Pro refined for M1 Pro and M1 Max. What am I looking at here? This is a 14-inch base model, half a terabyte SSD, 16 gigs of RAM, but $1,200. So this is $20 more than a MacBook Air with half the RAM and storage, and a smaller display, and no promotion, and no mini LED, and worse battery life and less ports. What? Oh, I'm sorry. There's $8 shipping, so it's $28 more expensive than a MacBook Air. And I mean, look at these pictures, right? They have actual photos of the machine. You can see we're getting our original charger. Everything looks pretty good. There's 43 battery cycles. This is an insane deal. $1,200 for the base model 14-inch. I don't care what the spec is. $1,200 just to get access to this display is worth it. That's how good these machines are, and it's legitimately mind-blowing now that they are coming down in price, and the idea that you'll be able to get this type of display for under $1,000 in like a year or so is pretty crazy. Another great example here, this 16-inch M1 Pro, this would have been the base model, so it's got the 1TB SSD and 16 gigs. But look at this, $1,750, and you can even make an offer for a 16-inch MacBook Pro. Dude, used MacBook Pros are back. They're back. When Apple Silicon was first coming out, there was basically nothing to be had on the used scene. I was basically recommending that you either buy something dirt cheap, and just wait it out, or you buy the new stuff. That's basically all there was for the past year and a half, 2 years. But we're finally at a point now where the used MacBook Pros that are out there are Apple Silicon and are a really good deal. Now, the thing that blows my mind even more than this is if we go ahead and make a new search here, also for MacBook Pro, but this time what I'm going to do is go into our refinements, go to processor, and we're going to go down and do a Core i9 9th gen. So this is the 2019 15 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. And why are these so expensive? Like, okay, I get it. This one has 32 gigabytes of RAM. It has a 1TB SSD, which you had to pay extra for in 2019. But for $1,500, you can already be buying much more powerful Apple Silicon machines. So I can only imagine that there's enough people left over that still want or need an Intel machine that it keeps these prices inflated. But it's already starting to crack. I mean, look at this listing here. A 2019 with the 2.4 gigahertz upgraded i9, 16 gigs, half a terabyte. Not super well spec'd, but we're under $1,000 here. So you can see that we're starting to see the prices come down, but just not enough. Like, none of these are striking me as being good enough of a deal to even consider for one moment. I actually have some of these old i9 machines. Hang on. You're telling me that a machine like this is worth roughly the same amount of money as one with the same amount of storage and unified memory from Apple Silicon? No, I don't believe that for 1 second. This thing, even though it's the 16-inch and it has an actually usable keyboard, think about everything that you'd be giving up. Think about how loud the fans are. Think about how much worse the battery life is going to be. Think about how much worse the display is going to be. It's smaller, the bezels are thicker, and it's not even ProMotion or Mini LED. If we were talking about 16-inch MacBook Pros showing up for $500 with Intel, sign me up. That's a good deal. I'll take that. But I don't see that here. Let's go ahead and set our maximum price to like $700. So the first one is a 15-inch, so butterfly keyboard. Ooh, it's not looking too good. This thing looks like it has been through a tumble dryer. And oh, bro, what am I looking at? Did this go through like a sanding machine? $600? No. No, absolutely not. Is in fair physical condition. Oh, I beg to differ. So, things are a little weird right now. I think you'd agree, because the Intel Mac market is terrible. If you want to buy a used Intel Mac, a lot of them are getting really old and are no longer supported, or they have butterfly keyboards and are too expensive, or they don't have butterfly keyboards and are also too expensive. But the used market for Apple Silicon, well, that's looking pretty good because these things are depreciating at a pretty normal rate, which I honestly wasn't expecting. I thought they would hold their value a little bit more. But hey, you know what? It's bad for me because I'm the only schmuck out here who's upgrading every year. It's great for you guys because it means that if you like the new stuff, but it's still a bit pricey, you've got pretty darn good discounts on really still very capable machines from just one generation prior. And I mean, if we go back to the performance rankings that I looked at, it really does put things in perspective, there's a couple of ways that you can think about this. The first is that the M2 Pro chip has actually gained quite a bit over the previous chip. So whereas in the previous generation you might have felt it was necessary to upgrade to an M1 Max, you can now probably get away with an M2 Pro. So that's already going to save you some money. Alternatively, if you don't want to get an M2 Pro, you can probably get a used M1 Max and save potentially even more money. So, hey, look at that. That's incredible. I think what we're seeing here is the pricing is becoming a lot more flexible. Now, as for reviewing these things 2 months later, that's really all I can think about because the usability, the actual experience of these machines is virtually identical. Yes, you're gonna get more performance. I've edited a number of videos while traveling on the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and this thing is a screamer. It is faster than even my totally decked out $4,000 M1 Max 16-inch, and it's still just as quiet and cool and amazing to use as ever. So there's not a ton to speak of in terms of the usability and how that's changed in the past 2 months, because it hasn't. It's the same machine, but a little faster. That's basically how you gotta look at these things. The smart purchase, as much as it pains Tim Cook, is probably to just buy the previous model at a pretty darn good discount, and then you can just cruise your way into M3, which we should hopefully be getting potentially this year. But don't you worry, because I'll be here throughout it all. If we do get new chips this spring or this summer, you know where to find the coverage on it. It's right here. So get subscribed, leave a like down below. Let me know your thoughts on this whole debate. Which MacBook Pro would you buy? 14, 16, M2 Pro Max, M1 Pro Max? Let me know all of that in the comments below. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.